Today we're making deviled potatoes.
That sounds delicious. But first, welcome. You're watching Strickland's and Friends, a seasonal whole food plant-based cookbook. Our goal is to help you use fresh fruits and vegetables when they're in season and at their best. Subscribing to our channel helps us make that happen, so please do subscribe. Now back to our video.
Deviled potatoes, you may ask. What do you mean, deviled potatoes? Not deviled eggs? No, not deviled eggs. We are making potatoes. They taste like deviled eggs, and you can bring them to your next backyard barbecue where people might expect that you would bring deviled eggs, and you'll have deviled potatoes and surprise them because they're lower in fat and they have no cholesterol. They're delicious, absolutely delicious. So we're going to start with about 1.5 pounds of these small yellow potatoes that are roughly egg-sized, egg-shaped. These are a little small, but you have to buy those at any local grocery store is probably going to have the small Yukon Gold potatoes. So we're going to start by taking our potatoes and cutting them in half from top to bottom, or North Pole to South Pole, if you will, and get a good slice right down the middle, and then lay them out flat on a parchment-lined baking sheet. You can toss them in a little bit of vegetable broth if you want to keep them moist, and then sprinkle a little salt and pepper on top, and the moisture from the vegetable broth will help hold that salt and pepper on them. You don't have to do that, but we are going to roast them at 350 degrees for 30 minutes until you can get a fork into them. Now remember not to put a fork into the peel side, and we're putting them cut side down. And so when you want to flip it over and put a fork in it, do that instead of cutting the back. We need the shells to stay intact to hold our filling. So we'll put that in the oven, 350 degrees for 30 minutes. So while those are roasting, we're going to make a sauce that will then get mixed with that mashed potato filling. So for our sauce, we're going to start with 1/2 cup of cashews. These are unroasted cashews, unroasted, unsalted. And you could soak them overnight ahead of time. You could just boil them for 10 minutes instead of soaking them, because I tend to forget to soak them at night, but boiling them for about 10 minutes does the same thing. If you have a high-speed blender like a Vitamix or a Blendtec, you could actually skip that step, which I'm skipping today since we have a Vitamix here. And then 3/4 of a cup of low-sodium vegetable broth, and just 1 teaspoon of turmeric. Turmeric is a wonderful spice because it is filled with the thing that gives it that orange color, curcumin, which is a powerful antioxidant. So we're adding that, and that's going to give our filling that nice yellow egg yolk looking filling. And that's what we're trying to do, is, I guess, mimic deviled eggs. So we'll put all of that in the blender and then whirl that up, and you want to make it nice and smooth and creamy, and you'll probably have to stop it a couple of times to scrape down the sides. All right, you might need to scrape it down a couple times because you don't really want little chunks of cashew still in it. Now, if you are allergic to tree nuts, or you want to make this a little bit lower in fat, you could use white beans, about the same amount, 1/2 cup of maybe cannellini beans. You could also try maybe using sunflower seeds as well, just to substitute for tree nuts if you're allergic to tree nuts. So the sauce part is made, and then once your potatoes come out of the oven, but they're still warm, you still want them a little bit warm, we're going to take a melon baller. So I have a melon baller, so one of these little old-fashioned doohickeys. I have found it easier to use a grapefruit spoon because it's serrated on the edge, and you're just going to take it and make a little circle in the middle and take that inside out. But you don't want to take all of the insides out, because you need some bit of the potato to help hold the whole thing together. So if you take it all the way down to the skin, it's just going to fall apart. So you need to leave about 1/4 of an inch of potato still in the shell. Okay, so then it will look like this. It's a nice little hollow potato shell. I have one more I can do. So just scoop out the middle. And then because they're still warm, we can mash them more easily. So you could use a potato masher, you could use a pastry blender, you could use a regular fork. Okay, so I used my potato masher, like this, one of these old-fashioned potato mashers. You could also use a fork just to mash up all of the potato until it's nice and smooth. And then we're adding this delicious sauce to the potatoes. There we go. And I'll just use my fork to stir it all up. Okay, so far what we have in here is the mashed potatoes, and we have vegetable broth blended with cashews and turmeric. So you see how nice and yellow that looks, kind of mimicking that egg yolk look that you would find in deviled eggs. Now, to give it an egg flavor, we are adding kala namak, or Indian black salt. So, and it is not actually black when you look at it, it's kind of pink, really. Usually when using kala namak or Indian black salt, you want to use sparing amounts of it because it has kind of a high sulfuric content. It really actually smells like eggs, it tastes like eggs, but there's no eggs to it, it's just salt. So in this case, because we're actually trying to mimic eggs, we're going to add somewhere between 3/4 of a teaspoon and a whole teaspoon of kala namak because we want it to taste like eggs. And then 2 teaspoons of fresh squeezed lemon juice. And then remember, we need that pepper, that black pepper, to help us absorb the curcumin in the turmeric. So give it a couple of good grinds of black pepper. And then we'll mix all of that up. Ooh, it smells like eggs. Oh my goodness, does this ever smell like eggs? Okay. So it's nice and smooth. You want to get it as smooth as you can. And then there's a couple of different ways you can do this, but we're going to take those hollowed out little potatoes and then take the filling. You could use a spoon and scoop the filling into it if you want to, like that, and just mound it up in there. You're going to have a lot of filling, so it's going to surprise you how much more. You might have some extra at the end. It tastes really good though. Spread it on some toast for breakfast. It's delicious. All right, so you're going to mound it up in there, or you can do what I've done here and take a pastry bag, scoop all of that filling into a pastry bag, roll it up nice and tight, and then you'll want one of the wider tips on it, so nice and big hole on the bottom, because this comes out, sometimes still has little chunks of potato in it, so, and that's fine, it tastes absolutely delicious even with little chunks of potato in it, but you do want the wider tip on it. And then you'll take one of these empty potato pieces right here and just squirt some of the filling into it in a real decorative way. So if you've ever been to a party where they were serving deviled eggs, you know, people put it in these cute little bags like this and squirt it out so it has a decorative finish to it. And then, there we go. That's a little messy, but sure tastes good though. Okay, so I have this adorable little antique cut glass deviled potato tray. And it is not a deviled egg tray. I was wearing a crown earlier, so I hereby decree this is a deviled potato tray, not a deviled egg tray. And then we are going to add to that some sweet paprika, just sprinkle a little on top. Give it a nice festive color. And then on top of that, we're going to add, you could use dried dill weed if you want to, if you don't have any fresh, or you could use some fresh dill weed and just pull off a few of the leaves, sprinkle them on top. It's so pretty. and it tastes really good on here. So if you grew up in a household where maybe your grandma made deviled eggs and put pickle relish in them, you could try that too by adding maybe a little bit, a teaspoon or two of pickle relish into this mix if you want to, into the filling. It's really good just like this without it. And then having the dill on top gives it kind of that pickle relish flavor. But absolutely beautiful. And I have taken this to parties before where there were a lot of people who ate the standard American diet, the sad diet, and they love these. I brought this to a party one time where there was a tray of deviled eggs and a tray, my tray of deviled potatoes, and the deviled potatoes were gone, like before the deviled eggs were. So they're really, really good. And they taste very much like what you might be used to if you remember deviled eggs and you miss deviled eggs. Well, try some deviled potatoes, and just fabulous. And I know my husband's standing right here wanting to try one, so we'll let him have that one. There you go.
Yeah, thank you for watching.
Click at the top for videos that we have found to be very important.
Click at the bottom right to see one of our featured videos.
Please subscribe to our channel by clicking our icon at the center of the screen.
And turn on notifications so that you can get our videos when the fruits and vegetables featured in that video are in season and at their best.
See you next time.